Think of duels and chivalry too as a house. Every house has a foundation. Well, in duels, axe cells are your foundation. They're basically very fast attacks which are great as counters or riposte. The main purpose of axe cells is to condition your opponent to react very fast so that you can throw off their timing when you throw in your drags and spins. Axe cells pressure the opponent to react fast. Best way to do axe cells is to look into the enemy whilst moving all the way down, as this makes your attacks more confusing and harder to read. This also makes your feints, it also masks your feints, making them look more difficult to read. You can also look up to make them look confusing, but in best practice it's better to look all the way down and into the guy. So if you're doing a right slash, turn left inwards to the guy and vice versa. As you can see here, after conditioning H2O with loads of axe cells, I threw in a heavy drag to hit him. So as you see here, in this fight with H2O, I'm prepping him with loads of axe cells, throwing in a spin now and then to try and catch him as time is up. But we get interrupted by some effort failure, so we quickly kill him. So, notice here how I'm looking all the way down, looking all of my attacks. Throwing in a drag now and then, don't worry, we're going to get into drag soon. The main purpose of this demonstration here is to show off how axe cells are great at conditioning the guy so that you can catch him off with your drags. As you can see here, he's also axing me, and watch this. He throws in a drag which completely caught me off because he conditioned me with all of those axe cells. I thought he was going to do another axe cell, but it turns out the dragon, meaning he hit me. I do the same thing to him. After baiting him with loads of axe cells, I threw in a toe drag. So now we're going to move into how to do drags. And for this drag right here, I'm demonstrating the stab drag. Now the stab drag is one of the best drags you can do in the game, as it's very confusing on the opponent's side. The best way to do a stab drag is to do a heavy stab and then turn away from the guy, slowly moving your mouse into the guy and using your footwork as a means to land the stab. Stab drags are also kind of difficult to learn at first. The best way to do it is to, when you're heavy stabbing, kind of move in like a circular motion with your WSD keys and move the stab into the guy when it's about to land. So stab away from the guy and slowly move it in as soon as you stab it. So now we move on to toe drags, also known as foot drags. Foot drag is the second best drag in the game in my opinion, as it's the slowest type of overhead drag you can do. Most people just look all the way up with their overhead drags, and those are predictable, as they land quicker than a foot drag. A foot drag is slower and it lands on their foot rather than their head, which means the opponent will have to counter it later than a standard overhead drag. The best way to foot drag is to do your heavy overhead either as a counter, riposte, or a neutral attack, and to look up and calmly move your mouse to the side of the enemy so that your swing will land on their foot. This takes some practice, as it's dependent on the release time of each weapon, so practice makes perfect. Also, it's dependent on the angle, so if I'm doing a right overhead, I will look to the right. If I'm doing a left overhead, I will look to the left. So here, Sack H2O does a foot drag on me. As you can see, they're kind of hard to defend against. The best way to defend against a well-placed foot drag is to double feint. So if you see some good player trying to foot drag you, it's best practice to do an overhead to overhead feint as a counter. If you also hear them doing a heavy attack as a feint with a slow weapon, you have a fast weapon, you can gamble. Okay, so now we move into light drags, which are basically drags, but they're not heavy attacks. Light drags are pretty good to throw in now and then, along with your axe cells, as they can also throw off your enemy's timing, and that makes it less apparent because they do not hear the heavy sound when you do a heavy attack. So this is great against longsword users and anyone who is countering fast. A light drag will probably bait out the enemy more than a heavy drag because most good players are used to the sound of someone doing a heavy attack. So a light drag is great. The way I do a light drag is I turn the mouse as far away as I can from the guy at the latest possible moment. I also use my footwork, so if I'm doing a left slash as a light drag, I will try and move to the left just to make the tip of the weapon hit them even later than it should. Okay, so now we move on to light foot drags. Light foot drags are probably the best type of light drag you can do. Because a light foot drag, just like a normal heavy foot drag, is very slow and will throw off the guy. A light foot drag is done by looking upwards and then looking to the left or to the right depending on the angle so that your light foot drag will hit their feet. So now we move on to the easiest drag to do, which is a heavy slash drag. Now, a heavy slash drag is probably the most common form of drag you're going to be doing and seeing. They're also very easy to counter once you get good. The best way to do a heavy slash drag is to look into your opponent just like an axel, just to throw him off a bit more, and then you want to turn all the way, as far away as the enemy as possible. So if you're doing a right heavy slash drag, look into the guy just as you would doing an axel, and then turn away using your mouse and your footwork, so that your heavy slash drag will hit them at the latest possible moment. The best way to do a slash drag, in my opinion, is to feint it. So the first slash will be an axel, followed by a feint, where it will still be an axel looking into the guy, and then you move it away from him. Okay, so here's what you've been waiting for. The dreaded spin, aka the 360. This is the best kind of drag you can do in the game, as it's a fake axel. So the guy will see the spin as an axel, they'll think it's coming very quickly, and then they will counter early. Little do they know it's a spin, and it's going to land as a very long drag. The way you do a spin is you look into the opponent as an axel, and as the weapon's about to release, you turn even more inwards so that you're facing away from the guy, and then you want to keep turning so that your weapon will hit them at the latest possible moment. So try and do it in a spin. It's also very easy to make your spins look predictable, so as I said, bait them with loads of axels and then throw in a spin. You can either do a spin as a single slash or as a feinted. I think, in my opinion, that the feinted slash spin is better than a normal spin. As you can see here, both of them work just as great. It really depends on the context of the situation, so try and practice your spins and make them look as janky as possible. The way to defend against a spin is from experience, so keep playing against higher tier players and you will eventually kind of see how a spin is initiated. Best way to defend against a spin is to double feint. So now I move on to jump dodges, and this is a way to defend and attack against a foot drag. The way to do a jump drag is to stand still, jump, and then counter as an overhead. It's very difficult to do, as you see there. I dodged by accident, and that's because it's a very finicky movement. As you saw there, I stood still, jumped, turned to the right, and then I counter feinted. Then I countered the overhead, just in case this overhead hit me. It's a very good move to do, and it always lands with a free hit because they cannot defend or attack as they've missed. So this is a great move to do indeed. It works against all two-handed weapons. Do not try and do a jump dodge against one-handed weapons, as you will probably get your arse handed to you and you'll be on the floor dead, wishing you never did that. So if they're doing a foot drag, if they're doing a right foot drag, you want to jump and turn to the left. If they're doing a left foot drag, you want to jump and turn to the right. So try and move away from their drag. As you saw there again, I missed because I dodged. Here he hit me, and that's why I did the counter overhead. It's for extra layer of defense. Jumped, turned left, and did a counter overhead. The best way to get used to doing these is to practice with your friends. Once you practice it enough, you'll get used to the movement and the process of doing a jump dodge, and then it will become second nature, and then eventually with enough practice, you'll realise that you can do this against anyone who foot drags you. So please practice this move as much as you can and you will get used to it. There's also a way to avoid a jump dodge. So if someone does jump dodge you, you could actually dodge away from them. So if someone jump dodges you and you're in the middle of a swing, follow up with a combo and then dodge out of the way and block as soon as they jump dodge you. So in this fight, I'm going to put everything I've taught you into practice. Jump dodge, which hits him. Then I follow up with a few axels to try and condition him when I throw in my drags. So here, I am doing loads of axels. Spin, which hits him because he was conditioned with the axels. I'm looking all the way down, as you can see, and I throw in a drag, which fails. Then I try and hit him again by doing a stab drag, which lands. As I said, that's the best drag in the game. He did not expect that. Another fight. I do a neutral feinted spin, which is great to do to initiate a fight. Doing loads of axels here, foot drag, which fails because I didn't condition him enough with the axels, and he hits me because I do it again and he knew how to do it. So more axels to condition him even more, followed by another spin which hits him, and another spin which fails. Micro foot drag to finish him off. Again, micro foot drags are great to do. And here we move on to jabs, which are absolutely cancerous. The reason why jabs are very important is because they stop counter fights and stamina fights. So the best way to do a jab is to do it from a counter. So counter and then jab mid-counter. You also want to get used to jabbing people when they get near you or if they're doing a heavy attack. So if you hear someone doing a heavy attack, jab them. Just slap them in the face, man. It's going to work. It's going to throw them off, and then you're going to be rewarded with a punish. So as soon as you jab someone, go for the axle and you'll probably hit them. Do not jab someone if they're ducking. Same except if you're getting jabbed a lot, you can duck. Also, if someone jabs you, you can jab them back. If you jab someone's jab, you are rewarded with the initiative, and you can follow up with an axle, which will hit them. Do not do this if the enemy is using a one-handed weapon, as they will hit you before you hit them. So final thing to do is kicks. Kicks are hit and miss. They are risk versus reward. If you are struggling against someone and you know you can't win against them, try and throw in a kick. The best way to do a kick is to do a kick mid-slash. So you want to slash with an overhead stab or whatever attack you're doing, and then throw in a kick midway through. This will usually bait them to block. The best way to do this is to have a counter fight, loads of counters, throw in riposte, and then once you throw in your next riposte, do a kick as soon as you riposte. They will usually be blocking, anticipating the attack to counter it. Little do they know, they've just been kicked and they'll get hit, as you can see, like that. Next fight with H2O, this is a real fight, this isn't scripted. I'm baiting them with loads of axles and then I throw in a drag right here and it hits. It was an accelerated drag. So an axle looked into him and turned away in the heavy. Give him a jab there to throw him off even more. Then I kill him by doing a spin, as you can see here. Watch it come, here it comes. He thought it was going to be an axle, it was a spin. And now he's dead. Loads of axles, failed drag. I throw in a micro drag to hit him because he thought it was going to be another axle. Then we get FFA'd by this guy who has no idea what day it is or where he is. He just gets killed. Please, can we just exile all of the Game Plus noobs? Set them on fire, throw them down a bridge. We don't need them. They just ruin the duel servers. I've got some more things to say coming up. Just moving around waiting for H2O to respawn. It's kind of awkward. But here he is. I'm just going to give him another fight right now. Yes. Okay, so he's ready to fight. So try and do a micro foot drag which fails. So then I go back to conditioning him with loads of axles. Drag which fails. And move back to pressure him with the axles again. He hits me because he did a foot drag. I didn't expect that. Conditioning him again with axles. Spin which hits him. Stab. Move out of the way to avoid his spin. And I dodge. You see how I dodged when I missed? I dodged so that I could block. Now here I die because I try and foot drag him there and it hit, but then I try and stab drag and he kills me because I missed the stab drag.